Now, Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have agreed to reduce tensions following a day of talks between presidents mediated by Angola. Congo's presidency announced that on Wednesday. The two countries will revive a Congo-Rwanda commission, which will resume activities on July the 12th in the Angolan capital, Rwanda. It also called for a return to normal diplomatic relations between Kinshasa and Kigali, a cessation of hostilities, and the immediate and unconditional withdrawal of the M23 rebel groups from its positions in eastern Congo. There was no immediate word on the talks from Rwanda, whose President Paul Kagame met with his Congolese counterpart in the Angolan capital Rwanda on Wednesday amid growing tensions. Rwanda and Congo had traded angry statements stemming from allegations that Rwanda backs the M23, which is made up of mostly Tutsi fighters from Congo.
We had positive progress from our point of view. We agreed in a ceasefire, among other measures that are contained in the roadmap that has just been presented, and, among them, we decided the creation of a mechanism of observation ad hoc, in addition to the one already existing at the level of the International Conference of Great Lakes Region.
I also thank President Tshisekedi for his contributions, that adding to which we were also to make our contribution to move things forward, and we are looking forward to creating normalization between our two countries by also resolving the issues that are on the ground that have led us to this point.
I hope this process will bring an immediate ceasefire and the withdrawal of that group M23, and hoping the implementation of the roadmap that could lead us to a process of peace, stability, and mutual trust.
All right, joining us now to discuss the rapprochement between Rwanda and DR Congo and how the bilateral relationship between the two African nations degenerated into a diplomatic feud is Arise analyst Mark Bichachi. Mark, good to have you on the program this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
And just for the sake of context and I guess history for some of those who don't know, could you walk us through exactly what it is that started the issue between these two nations? We know it has a lot to do with the M23 rebels and also the rebels of the FDLR. Could you give us more insight as to how that developed?
Well, this goes back to the Rwandan genocide when Hutus ran into the Congo and then later on formed there were Tutsi movements that were made in the Congo to try and chase away the Hutus who were running away from the massacre in Rwanda. And therefore the Tutsi rebels who were there were then backed by the Rwandan government, or so it is claimed. And then there was an agreement in 2012 where on March 23rd, where it was expected that this was supposed to be a peaceful agreement. But then there was a splinter group that then came into notoriety after taking over a border town. They called themselves the M23 rebels, who said that that agreement was not being honored. And it is that same agreement that they are claiming is not being honored now that leads them back to the fight. But the question then remains, how does Rwanda get involved? It has long been claimed that the government of Rwanda and Uganda, they support different rebel groups within the eastern Congo, and it has been claimed that the Rwandan government under Paul Kagame has supported the M23 rebels and also supported the illegal exploitation of Congolese minerals. So this is where the bottom line is, and this is further escalated by the fact that people in the Congo have now been hunting down and chasing away ethnic Tutsis out of Congo simply because of this particular conflict. So it's both social, it's historical, and then it's also about the agreements that were made in March 23rd.
So, Mark, what would you say are the main takeaways from this meeting that was held in Angola?
Well, the first thing is that they have called for an immediate de-escalation of the violence, which is key. Number two, they've agreed on a framework of verifying the claims that have been made against each other, so the claim verification. And then there is an agreement to stick to what they agreed to in Nairobi, which is basically to deploy an East African force in that region. Such a force, of course, would be able to have a neutral stance in that area. Now, it remains to be seen whether the M23 rebels will actually pull away from the border town they have actually taken over in the last few days. But these are the main takeaways from that particular sitting.
Well, Mark, I'm just wondering how long the implementation of these outcomes that you've highlighted will take, and who will also be overseeing this?
That's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Because other than saying that the DRC Rwanda meeting will happen, committee meeting will happen on July 12th, there has been no dates or timelines for the implementation of any of the agreements, whether it's the Nairobi agreement or right now the one that's been done in Angola. The timelines are not clear. The details are sketchy. And I think the details are sketchy because I think these two presidents are talking about issues that they don't want to come out in the public domain, because one must ask themselves, if M23 was not represented, how come this agreement agrees that M23 will exit the Congo if they're not influenced by Rwanda? So these are the main questions, and I think some of these issues will remain quite on the hush-hush, and we will have to read by implication.
All right, Mark. Well, the takeaways from the meeting, the de-escalation, the calling for a neutral East African group of militias to patrol both sides, and also the verification of claims of wrongdoing on both sides. With all of these, do you think it is enough to stop this situation that has built up that seems that, you know, at any time it could bubble up? Do you think it's enough?
Well, I think it is a step in the right direction for sure. Given that they are working with Nairobi, they are working with the East African community. Angola is getting involved. The Africa Union is involved. So is the UN. And so far, the two leaders, that's Tshisekedi and Paul Kagame of Rwanda, have both committed themselves to a peaceful de-escalation of the tensions between them. The restoration of diplomatic talks between them is also a good sign. So in terms of whether this is all that is needed, one never knows. This is Congo after all. It's been at war for close to 2 decades now. We really hope and pray that this will be the silver bullet, but it is the Congo and the interest in the Eastern Congo, whether it is by their forests or the natural resources that are there. I can assure you the interests are there, both governmentally and also different kinds of militia with different interests. So we hope that this is the silver bullet, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
Now, before this meeting in Angola, regional leaders within the East African community said they were working together to deploy a peacekeeping force in eastern DRC. Do we have any idea how soon that might happen?
If I had an idea, I think I would be the greatest prophet, because there's been no information coming out of Nairobi. There's no information coming out of the partner states. As I said before, this seems the deals come without any indication of the timing. The commitments come without any indication of deadlines and when these things will happen. So no, I do not have an idea of when this would possibly happen.
But Mark, one thing that's apparent is the role Angola played as the mediator in this case. What role would it be playing moving forward between the DRC and Rwanda?
Well, I think one of the things that it's going to push for is the implementation of the 6 points that they came up with. The committee between Rwanda and Congo, I think those are things that they are also willing to facilitate. But the way this is shaping up, it's going to be a multi-state intervention because all of these countries neighboring the Congo understand how this destabilized Congo affects them, but also they understand the level of business and commerce that will happen between the countries if Congo is stable. So their interests will continue. They will push for the implementation of the points that they've agreed on, and they will keep being a friend to the Congo. That's what the president said, and I believe that's what he will continue to do.
Mark Bichachi, for your analysis and contribution this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us.